Hey, it's Emily and this is my mid-year freakout tag. I had originally planned to film this before going out in 42-mile-an-hour winds, but that didn't happen. Here we are, so hence the hair. So this will be my first ever time doing the mid-year freakout tag and I'm very excited. I feel like I've had a really good reading year so far. It's definitely my best so far. As of yesterday, I finished my 50th book, which was my total target for the year, so very happy with the progress I am making. My non-official goal is to hit 100 before the end of the year, but who knows? I guess we should just jump right on into the video. So the first question is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2020? And this might not come as a shock to people who have watched my videos before, but the book I have chosen for that is Burn by Patrick Ness. This book was just amazing for me. I just loved it. I went on such a journey with it and it was just, I don't know, I just loved it. And it was totally bonkers and it totally worked, but I don't know what else to say except this is definitely... There were some other contenders, but this was the one I just had to pick. Like, it was just... There's really no other option. For anyone who doesn't know, this book is about a girl called Sarah Dewhurst and her dad kind of hires a dragon to work on their farm, but little does she know that there's this whole prophecy that's based around her and this dragon, and it involves FBI agents, assassins, and a whole other load of crazy stuff. People who worship dragons, and then like a dragon queen. So yeah, definitely recommend this to anyone who loves maybe fantasy. Yeah, it's set in 1950s America, so a little bit of historicalness in there too. So that has definitely been my favourite book of the year so far. Yeah, really, that was no other contender. Question 2 is, what is the best sequel you've read this year? And I've only read 3 sequels. And so the one I've decided to go for is One of Us Is Next by Karen M. McManus. This is the sequel to One of Us Is Lying, which I read at the end of December. So yeah, I really enjoyed both of them. And also love the sprayed edges. I just love everything about a YA mystery. It's just such a fun, like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it was like once I finished it, I had this feeling, I was just like, oh, that was so good. I've also got Two Can Keep a Secret, so I'm going to have to read that very soon. Really enjoyed this and highly recommend it if you like mysteries. This book takes place a year after the events of One of Us Is Lying, with the same school, but it's kind of different people. However, there's still connections to the people in the first book, and it follows a game of truth or dare that turns kind of ugly and deadly. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, I didn't enjoy it as much as One of Us Is Lying, but this is definitely my favourite sequel of the year. I just love YA mysteries. Oh dear, I can tell this video is going to send me mad. Right, moving on. Question 3 is a new release that you are yet to get to, and for that I've chosen Clap When You Land by Elizabeth A. Savino. However, this is now my July TBR. I will be getting to this very shortly, but I haven't got to it just yet, and I really want to. I'm saving this book to read for Join the Six, which is a readathon that I'm a co-host for, so I'll leave a link to the announcement somewhere, and definitely check that out because it's going to be a load of fun. So yeah, that's a bit of a spoiler for my TBR. However, yeah, I do plan to get to it very soon. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about this book and I've loved The Poet X. I haven't read With the Fire on High just yet, but yeah, I did love The Poet X and I loved that it was written in verse, and this is the same, so very excited to get to this, but yeah, just need to actually get to it now. Can't wait for that readathon. So the next question is, what is the book that you're most anticipated for the second half of the year? And I don't know why I've got my iPad in my hand, but I've gone for Dear Justice by Nick Stone. I have this on NetGalley on my iPad already, so I'm definitely going to be reading that very shortly. However, I think it comes out in October. So this is like the sequel to Dear Martin, which I absolutely loved. I've got up there on that shelf. Yeah, it was just such a great read and I highly recommend reading it. It was a really emotional read and it made me cry, and so I just know that Dear Justice is going to be the same sort of thing. I know that I'm going to be so emotionally involved with this story. Yeah, highly recommend Dear Martin. Yeah, definitely very excited for Dear Justice to come out. So, whoa, dropped it. Question 5 is, what is the biggest disappointment of the year so far? And for me, it's Chasing the Stars by Virginie Grimaldi. Yeah, it was just such a disappointment. I bought it because it sounded like the perfect book for me. It was like a travel novel. I love travel novels, and it was a contemporary. There was a slight bit of romance in it, but it was more about a mother, you know, creating a stronger relationship with both her daughters. It sounded like such a book, it sounded like a book that I would absolutely love, and it just let me down so much. There were some good points, like the friendship between one of the daughters, Lily, and Noah, this other son of someone they're travelling with, but it was just like, just wasn't interested. And I talk about this a lot more in Rebecca's video that we did together about books we don't like, which I will link down below or somewhere, and I talk about why I don't like this in more detail if that interests you. However, yeah, I've said this a lot, but it felt to me that the author had a list of bad things that can happen, and they were just ticking it off, like making sure every single one went in here. But the end was so predictable, like instantly, no matter what plot twist came, you just knew how it was going to end anyway. So yeah, I thought I was going to breeze through this. It took me much longer than I thought because I was really struggling with it. But yeah, oh well, I read it and it was disappointing, but that's as much as I can say. So question 6 is, what is the biggest surprise of the year for you so far? And for this I've gone for an ebook that I read. I went with Homeward Bound by Richard Smith. So this is a book that I requested on NetGalley when I first got the account, and it was the first book I read on NetGalley, and I didn't really know much about it when I requested it. I just requested it because, you know, I'd only just logged onto the website for the first time. And oh my goodness, was I surprised. I absolutely fell in love with this story. It was just so sweet, and yeah, so I don't know how to describe it. So it was a contemporary, and it's kind of follows this guy George, and his wife has recently passed away, so he's an elderly man. His daughter doesn't want him to live on his own anymore, and is trying to not send him, but she's trying to encourage him to go live in a retirement home. However, he's not having that, and he can't part with his record collection because he has a massive record collection. So his granddaughter offers to go live with him while she's at university. It's kind of about the granddaughter getting to know her granddad and hearing stories about being in a band and being a musician throughout, I think, the 60s. So yeah, and he's got plenty of stories to tell, and I just loved it. And yeah, it was just such a cute story, but yeah, I don't know what else to say. I highly recommend it if you like contemporaries, adult contemporaries. I seem to like books that have a musical theme now, I've realised. Like if a book has a focus on music, then I seem to really love it. So yeah, that's that one. So the next question is a new favourite author, so this could be a debut author or an author new to you, and for that I've gone for Kerrine Getton, I think that's how you say her name, and yeah, I read When Life Gives You Mangoes. So I requested When Life Gives You Mangoes on NetGalley and I got it, and oh my goodness, it's definitely one of my favourite books of the year so far. Not quite as good as Burn, but yeah, it was just such a good book and I just loved it. And so I'm definitely going to be checking out any more of her stuff that she ever publishes in the future. When Life Gives You Mangoes isn't even out yet, but I'm still like, when's she going to release a new one? It was just so good. It was a book set in Jamaica, and I've never read a book set there, so I really just enjoyed, you know, just learning more about life there, and especially for children in these villages. And yeah, it was just so fun. It had a bit of a mystery aspect, and it was just lovely. It was all nice stuff wrapped up in one. So question 8 is a newest fictional crush, and I don't think I have that many this year. So, but the two that kind of came to mind if I had to pick ones, I have, yeah, 2 options. First is Marcus, but like Marcus at the end of the book, because at the beginning of the book I just didn't like him that much, and it was only at the end of the book when he had kind of realised things and kind of changed a little that I actually liked him. However, the other option is Maxim from Rebecca. Yeah, I don't know why, but I just know that when there was like, so when you find something out about him, I don't know why, but for me that made him even more attractive, and I was like, yes. I don't know how to describe it without giving much away. But yeah, I just loved his relationship towards the end with Mrs. De Winter, the new Mrs. De Winter, because I don't think her first name's ever revealed. Not that I caught on anyway. Yeah, I definitely liked those two guys the most. Those were my fictional crushes, I guess. They weren't full-on fictional crushes, but they were just guys that I liked. I don't know, I guess we should just move on. So the next question is, what is your newest favourite character? And for that I've gone for Stormy Rain from After the Rain. Yeah, we hear about Stormy Rain a little bit in the first books in the series, the Destination Love series. However, this one follows her and we really get to know Stormy in this one, and I just love her. Just her whole like mindset and free-spiritedness. I really just enjoyed reading from like kind of her perspective for once, and yeah, she was just so colourful and I just loved it. Yeah, I wish I could be more like Stormy. I don't know how to explain it, but she's definitely my favourite character. She isn't the best person in the world, but I just loved reading this story from her point of view, like the parts that were from her point of view, because it's half her, half Marcus. However, yeah, I don't know, I just admired her a little bit. She was just so confident about everything, and it was just, I don't know, she just made me smile. Everything Stormy did made me smile, and yeah, just gave me that happy feeling. Question 10 is a book that's made you cry this year, and for that I have gone with Burn by Patrick Ness. I think this was the first book to make me cry this year, and maybe the only, but it wasn't even when I was reading this. After reading a particular scene in the first 50 pages, I just kind of stopped reading and then went upstairs and was just like crying, because it was just brought out those emotions in me. It was just like, oh, like my heart broke for the characters in that scene. However, I just understand that it was necessary for the plot, but it was just so like, the emotions, they got me. Yeah, this is definitely a book that made me cry this year. It was like, at one point it was like sobbing, like ugly crying, so yeah, yay me. So question 11 is a book that made you happy, and right, so I wanted to have different books for each of these questions, however there seem to be quite a few overlaps and this is one of them. I kind of have two options. The first one is When Life Gives You Mangoes by Karen Getton. Absolutely loved it. It was just such a fun read, and it was exactly what I needed at that moment. It was just fun, and it was like the perfect summer read. It's a middle grade, and it made me like realise that middle grades are actually really good and I need to read more middle grade. So yeah, that was option number 1, and the second option was After the Rain by Jo Watson. This is a romance, and it was just a story that makes me smile, and it was just a book that, it's not the best, you know, piece of literature in the world. It was just a book that made me smile throughout the whole thing, and oh, it was just such a happy read. The whole series has made me feel like this. This is book 4 in the Destination Love series, and yeah, it's just, I just love this series just because it just makes me feel happy, and it just makes me want to travel everywhere. Yeah, so I highly recommend this if you like an adult romance that has travel aspects in, because each book is set in a different place. The first one is Thailand, I believe. The second one is Mauritius. The third one is Greece. This one was kind of like Kenya and then into Prague at the end. And I can't remember what the last one's about, but we'll get onto that soon, I guess. So yeah, those are the kind of two books that just made me happy. I just love books that are set outside of like Western Europe and like North America. So yeah, let's just move on. Question 12, I believe, is what is the most beautiful book you've acquired so far this year? I once again have two options because I couldn't decide. The first one is this copy of Rebecca. I just love how shiny it is, and I love the kind of gold pattern, like the swirliness. It reminds you of like a really nice stately home gate. But yeah, so I just love like looking at it shine in like the view thing. I just saw it. I don't even need a copy of Rebecca. Like, I read it with my mum's copy, and if I hadn't have seen this copy in Waterstones, then I probably wouldn't have bought one for my own. It's just because it was so pretty that I was just like, right, that's going in my basket now. The other option is Frankie and the Gift of Fantasy. I haven't read this, I don't know anything about it, but I've got it on NetGalley and I just think the cover is so beautiful, like the colours and the patterns. It just, oh, I'm just so happy looking at it. It was definitely a book that caught my attention, and I know you probably shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but I saw it and was like, this is beautiful, I think I'm going to request it. So I probably will end up buying it once it's published, just because it's so pretty and I just love the colours. Right, let's move on. So the last question is, what are the books that you'd like to read by the end of the year? I have 7 options, so I'll just go ahead and start listing them. I won't talk about them too much, but yeah, let's jump right on in. The first one, as I mentioned, oh, a book fell. The first one, as I mentioned earlier, is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I hope to read this before the end of the month, so yep, that's exciting. I'm sure I can read this very quickly because it's written in verse. So yeah, that's definitely one that I want to read urgently. Oh, it's okay, it's only Chasing the Stars that fell. That's alright. The next one on my list is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, because I seem to be the only person who still hasn't read this yet. I've actually had this on my TBR for so long. Like, I think since it came out I saw it in Tesco's and thought, oh yeah, that looks good, I'll read it. And so then all this hype kind of happened recently around this book when the second one came out, which the lovely Catherine sent me. So now I'm going to have to get to this one shortly, because as I said earlier, I love a YA mystery and I just don't know why I haven't gotten to this one yet. Moving on swiftly. So the next one I would like to read before the end of the year is On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. Yep, I've heard really good things about this. I don't know much about this storyline, but I've just heard glowing reviews. I think this is about a girl who wants to be a rapper. That's literally as far as I know about the storyline for this. So yeah, very excited to jump into this one, hopefully before the end of the year. The next one is The Great Xscape by Jo Watson, which is the final book in the Destination Love series. This follows Val this time, and I think she has a crush on her best friend, but he's engaged to someone else, and I think it starts with her flying out to his engagement party or something like that. But yeah, very excited to get to this because I've just loved the whole series so much. It'll be so nice just to finally get like closure at the end of the series, and then I can move on to Jo Watson's other books, because oh my god, why are they hoovering? My mum's hoovering. My mum's refusing to stop hoovering, so we're just going to have to keep pushing with that horrible noise in the background. The next book on the list that I'd like to read is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This is one of my top 5, or like not top 5, but 5 books that I would like to read before the end of the year that I gave myself at the beginning. I have the audiobook for this, and I just keep pushing it off because the font's so small and I'm kind of daunted by it. But yeah, I would really like to actually get this before the end of the year, just so I can tick off my, you know, top 5 books. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh well, we'll have to get to it at some point, so it's been on my TBR a long time. The next book is Mindhunter by John Douglas and Mark Olshaker. I really loved the Netflix series. I just fell in love with it. I found it so interesting and I loved that it was based on a true story, so I decided to pick up the book when the first series came out, and I still haven't read it. I do have the audiobook now. I now also have the next book I'm going to talk about on NetGalley. Definitely want to get to this very soon. And so that next book that I'm going to talk about is The Killer Across the Table. I think that's what it's called, The Killer Across the Table. By the same people, John Douglas and Mark Olshaker. So this is another book about interviewing serial killers, and yeah, I got approved for that on NetGalley, and I also have the audiobook for that as well, so that's perfect. I hope to get to those very soon. I find it really interesting, like reading about serial killers and the psychology behind that, and yeah, especially after watching the Mindhunter series, I definitely want to read the book. So that was the last question, so that was my mid-year book freakout tag. Yeah, so far so good. Only one book that I mentioned there was read at the start of July, which is After the Rain, because I finished that last night. But aside from that, I wanted to do it after June, so it was kind of literally halfway through the year. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon in a new video. Bye!